I want to talk about one of my favorite. I guess the mouth call would still be my favorite because that's kind of what I'm more accustomed to using as far as the majority of the day. But I want to talk about probably my favorite call that has become my favorite call in the last 3 or 4 years, and that is the tube call. Now when I was young, I played around with the tube call back in my early 20s. I started playing around with them, and I just kind of got to where, I could use them a little bit, but I just never really liked it. I didn't like the sound of them. I just didn't really care about, I don't know. I just didn't like them at the time. So I quit using them for many, many years until about 4 years ago. And a good friend of mine gave me a tube call, and I saw what he was doing with them and getting all the turkeys gobbling that I wasn't getting gobbling, that he was getting gobbling. So I picked it back up, and I'll tell you what, after about the last 4 years, I will never be without one again. Never. I mean, every single morning when I get out of the truck to go turkey hunting, I may forget my gloves. I may forget my face mask many times. That's why you see me a lot of times without gloves and face mask. I should forget them. But there's one thing that I will not forget. I always reach up around my neck and make sure I've got my tube call, because in the last 4 years, I can't tell you how many turkeys I've got to gobble and locate with a tube call. My location on Gobblers have went way up. I mean, in the last 3 or 4 years, it's just went way up. And I have called turkeys in with a tube call and call them from a long ways off, and the only thing they would gobble to is a tube call, and call them all the way in. And just like last year, I called one from like 400 yards, literally 400 yards off the neighbors, and with a tube call, called him all the way off that property, onto the property I was hunting, down a steep hill, down in a holler, up my side, and finally switched over to a mouth call the last little bit and worked him on in and killed him at 9 yards. And so I believe in a tube call. And so I want to talk a little bit about a tube call and the things I do to kind of, make it sound even better, and the things that I've learned in the last 4 years of really getting heavily involved with tube calling that makes me just know that I'll never be without one again. So a tube call is more of a locator type call. Now that's not saying you can't call turkeys all the way in with it, because I certainly have. As I mentioned previously, I have called turkeys all the way into me just using the tube call. That's the only thing they gobbled to, and that's the only thing that they were hot for. And so I just stayed on that call until I had to let my hands go and get on the shotgun. And so you can call turkeys all the way in with them, but if you'll just go back further away from that call and listen, it's amazing how real that it sounds. So it may not sound great, to you and to your ears up close in a room. And I don't know, I think that sounds pretty good, I think that sounds pretty good, but when you get outside and you really cut through that wind and you cut through that foliage in the springtime, it just is unbelievable how real it sounds from a distance. As far as the call that I get the most response for, of course, a yelp, I get a lot of response from a yelp when I'm trying to get really loud and locate a gobbler. But I'll be honest with you, just doing this right here, what I did before, just doing this right here has got me more turkeys to gobble than just about anything, just by doing this right here. That's it. Pop, 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 pop. I mean, you can do that standing on a ridge or standing on the edge of a field and trying to locate one up in the daytime. And it's amazing just how many times right when you get done, bam, boy, he'll just gobble. And where you may have just went through there with a box call or a glass call or a mouth call or some kind of other call and not get an answer, but go back around there before you leave with a tube call and just right there. I've seen it time and time and time again. And so just by kind of cutting a little bit, it's tremendous up in the daytime. If they don't answer to that, then, I kind of go into a yelp. And many times you'll get a shot gobble just from that right there. So tremendous locator call. Now there is things you can do to kind of change the pitches and change the tone of your tube call to make them even sound better than what they do when they come out of the package from most companies. Now this is my call here. This is my signature Gobble Getter tube call. You can get these at springfevercustomcalls.com. We just came out with it last year, and I'm really proud of this call because we've sort of done a little bit of things different than normal tube calls that you buy. And there's a lot of great tube calls out in the market, you know, lots of them that does the job. But I just kind of put my own little spin on this one. This is a great call. It's made out of wood. You can get them. They're available at springfevercustomcalls.com, like I said. But what I do a couple things that gets this call even better. And I'm going to show you. I want to go over here to the table, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that I do to help me improve on my tube call. Some of the things I think is really important when you get into tube calling. One, I think it needs to be around your neck. I really do. If you put this down your vest and you're reaching for it, a lot of times the latex kind of gets pulled, and a lot of times it gets too crinkled because it's down in there moving around, and it's not as it's just not right there close to you where you have access to it where you can just use it. So you need a lanyard, and a lot of tube calls don't come with a lanyard. Mine does. So this is another reason why that you should check mine out, is because it does come with a lanyard just like the one I'm wearing here. And that way it's really, it's right there. You can use it. And like if you're working a turkey and that's the only thing you'll gobble to, I've actually been behind, looking down my gun and have this call like this and just be calling, trying to call as soft as possible, and him be out there and me see him out there at 60, 55, 60 yards, and all I got to do is just drop it like that and get right on that gun. And so, that kind of helps too. And so, and I have done that a couple times, but I try to keep it around close to me here around my neck with a lanyard. But here's something that I think is really important, and how you kind of can tune a tube call to get the sounds that you really want. Some of the things I do to help me tune my tube call and get different sounds is I have different size latexes. Now, my call comes with 2 pieces of 4/1000 latex, all right? And that's a good medium range size latex, and it gives you kind of that medium range. But you can get them on like these call supply places or eBay, and I order different size pieces of latexes that's cut for for tube calls rather, and I use them because you never know what sound that you're going to get that gobbler to go for. And what I do is like this green one here I've got. I think it is a 3000, so it's a little bit thinner than the 4. And then like the yellow one here, it's like a 2000, so it's really super thin. Gives you them really high pitched calls. And see this red one, I think it's like a 5. And then this gray one here, this dark gray one's like a 6. So this one really does good for like gobbler yelps and jake yelps. If you're trying to get a different sound or a real deep raspy hen, if you're hearing that type of hen. So I try to have different sizes so that I can sit out there in the field a lot of times and just take this O-ring off, put me a new one on there, and I can kind of change the sounds a little bit. So I don't like just being stuck with one latex, all right? And you can. I mean, one probably will do just fine, but I like to have different sizes with me in my turkey vest just so I can play around with the sounds, and you never know what might work on one particular day. And if it's really windy, I'll go to something like a 2000s where I can get some really super high pitchy stuff where I can cut through that wind. And like this green one, I use this green one a lot because it's a 3, and it just really has a good higher pitch, but it's still got a good back note sound. So that's something to remember, is just get different pieces of latex. Something else I do a lot when I'm hunting is instead of 1 piece of latex, I will take 2 of the same size. So this is a 3000, like I said, and I'll just lay both pieces right together like this, and I will make it a double reed call. All right, you can see right here that it's 2 stacked on top of each other, and I'm actually making it a double reed call. And I'm not putting it exactly flush. I'm actually taking the top piece here and putting it just a little bit above the bottom where I can see both reeds. And then what I'll do is I'll take my tube call and I'll put both pieces over it. Now, everybody's lips are different because you're using your bottom lip to really get on that latex end of it. But what I do is I'll come up about right about right there. So a lot of you that I see, you've got your latex way too low, and that's why you're not getting good sounds out of it. As you can hear, that double reed just kind of makes it a little bit more of a, it kind of puts a back note on there, and it just makes it a little bit just more deeper, but not so deep that it's real raspy. And I've just had really great luck putting 2 reeds on it. But if I'm not getting much of a response, I just, you know, take both reeds off and put one piece of latex on it, put it back over it, and sometimes that does it. So it gives you a little bit more ways to use a tube call than just throwing one piece of latex on there with one size and going through there and doing the same thing. So I've seen days where 1 piece will get them to gobble, and I've seen a lot of days where 2 gets them to gobble. So I just like to kind of change it up and do different things with it. But regardless whether you use 1 or 2 or what kind of size of latex that you use on it, these things are tremendous. I mean, it's just unbelievable how many turkeys I have got in the last 3 or 4 years to gobble at a tube call. And I'll never be without one again. You know, I just wished I would have never stopped using them and really kind of got deep into using them years ago. But I didn't. But listen, I would never be without this thing now. So this stays right here close to my heart every single day of the turkey season. And you can get these at springfevercustomcalls.com. This is the Batdale Signature Series Gobble Getter. And so if you want to get one, go over there right now and get one before the turkey season gets here, because then they get sold out a lot, and you kind of gotta have to wait till we get some more in. But these are great calls, and I'll tell you what, tube calls are tremendous. I guess probably outside of mouth call, tube calls have become my favorite turkey call. And I still use a box. I still use a slate, but tube call every single day of the turkey season. It's right there by my heart, and I'm using it. And I ain't going to say it's 100%, but I'm going to say probably, and this is the truth, probably 90%. 90% of the time, sometime during that day, I will get one somewhere to gobble at it. So it is a true gobble getter. So check them out, springfevercustomcalls.com, and I hope that helps you on your tube calling. And check them out, and we'll see you in the next video.